The weight of bones. I remember the day my family turned their backs on me, the moment I became a specter in my own home. It was a stormy evening, the kind that rattles windows and sends shadows dancing across the walls. I stood in the living room, trembling, clutching my latest findings on osteospiritual forensics, a term I had coined for the study of bones believed to carry curses. My heart raced as I shared my passion, desperate for their understanding. But all I received were scoffs and sneers. "Delusional," my father spat, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're going to disgrace us. Bones don't tell stories, you fool. You're just chasing ghosts." My mother's face twisted with disgust, her eyes narrowing to slits. "You'll lose your mind, just like your Uncle Harold. This obsession is unhealthy. It's time to grow up." I was a child welfare inspector, and the accusations that had stained my reputation made me a pariah. Wrongfully accused of harming a young resident, I was cast out like a leper. In my isolation, I found solace in the idea that the dead might reveal truths the living were too afraid to confront. I became a ghost myself, haunting the fringes of society, driven to uncover the skeletal remains rumored to lie beneath the town's oldest orphanage. Years passed, and I immersed myself in my work, piecing together a tapestry of forgotten stories. I traversed graveyards, scoured ancient texts, and listened to whispers of the dead. The world around me may have mocked my obsession, but I discovered something powerful, something that turned my disgrace into a chilling recognition. I became known, not as a madman, but as an expert in a field that others dared not tread. I unearthed truths that sent shivers down the spines of those who thought they knew better. And then I returned home, walking up the familiar path. I felt the weight of my family's disbelief pressing down on me. The house stood as it always had, a fortress of memories both sweet and bitter. The moment I stepped inside, the air thickened, charged with an energy that felt both welcoming and foreboding. My family gathered in the living room, their faces a mixture of surprise and apprehension. They had not expected me to return, not after the years of ridicule and scorn. "Why are you back?" my brother asked, his voice a low growl, eyes darting to the door as if considering escape. "I came to show you what I found," I said, my heart pounding with a mix of thrill and dread. "You need to see what I've uncovered. You need to understand." I pulled a small box from my bag, the contents carefully wrapped in cloth. As I unveiled the bones, fragile yellowwood yet imbued with a strange energy, I could feel the room shift. The air turned electric, thick with anticipation and fear. I could see their skepticism morphing into something else, something darker. "Those are just bones," my mother scoffed, though her voice trembled slightly. "You think you can scare us with relics of the past?" But I pressed on, recounting the stories I unearthed, the tragic fates of children who had once lived in that orphanage, the curses that bound them to the earth. I spoke of the anguish that echoed through their remains, of the secrets they carried like a shroud. I could see the disbelief in their eyes begin to waver, replaced by a dawning horror. Then the shadows in the corners of the room began to stir. At first it was subtle, a flicker at the edge of my vision. But soon the shadows coalesced into shapes, writhing figures that seemed to emerge from the very walls. Faces twisted in anguish, mouths opening in silent screams. My family gasped, stepping back as the air grew cold, the temperature plummeting as if a grave had opened within our home. "What is happening?" my father shouted, his bravado crumbling. I stood frozen, a mix of terror and exhilaration coursing through me. "They've come to show you the truth," I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips. "This is what you mocked. This is what you refused to see." The figures surged forward, their skeletal forms illuminated by a ghastly glow. They surrounded my family, their hollow eyes boring into the hearts of those who had scorned me, those who had cast me aside. I watched as the realization dawned upon my family, the weight of their disbelief, the cost of their ridicule, manifesting in the very horrors I had studied for years. "Please stop, we believe you," my mother cried, tears streaming down her face. But the shadows did not listen. They were the embodiment of the truths I had unearthed, the consequences of a world that preferred to ignore the darkness beneath the surface. As the figures closed in, I felt a strange sense of vindication. I had plumbed the depths of despair, faced the terrors that lay hidden beneath the bones, and emerged with knowledge that could shatter the very fabric of their reality. My family, who had once deemed me a disgrace, now stood on the precipice of their own reckoning. In that moment, I understood the true weight of my obsession. It was not merely a pursuit of knowledge, but a confrontation with the darkness that lurked within us all. I had survived what they could not even fathom, and now I was a harbinger of the truths they had buried deep. As the shadows enveloped them, I turned away, leaving them to face the consequences of their disbelief. I stepped back into the world, the chilling recognition of my triumph mingling with the haunting echoes of their fear. The bones beneath the orphanage had spoken, and they would never be the same again.